Hi everyone. We are beginning our series on the Mass. And so hopefully it's going to be very detailed to help you appreciate all the things that are incorporated in the celebration of our greatest act of worship, which is the Mass. So we thought today that we would begin, or at least part of the beginning is going to be going through some of the vestments and what the priest does when he is getting vested for Mass. The important thing is, why does the priest or why does the church have special clothing that its ministers wear during the celebration of this act of worship? Goes back to the Old Testament. When the high priest when Moses was given the law, God commanded that the high priests who would serve in the temple of God's presence would have very specific clothing, liturgical clothing, that would be used only for worship. And it would symbolize different aspects of what the life of faith was supposed to be about. So carrying on from that ancient tradition, the high priests in the temple, Christ the new high priest, now priests that are ordained to Christ the high priest, wear similar clothing. And we also know that when you come to Mass, like the priest will tell you, you should dress up for Mass. So I want you to understand what is the priest wearing and how we dress up for Mass, why that's such an important part of our life of faith. And then it helps us understand how all of us should wear clothing that speaks to the grandeur of what we are celebrating and entering into. So the very first thing that a priest wears is going to be our regular clothing, which is just called clerical garb, right? There are probably many different reasons why we wear what we wear, but black is supposed to be both a color of simplicity, to speak the simplicity of our life, but also it's a color of death, right? Not only reminding us of the sacrifice that Christ offered for all of us, but also that the priest has died to himself for the church. The white that we wear, the collar, is supposed to be a sign of the resurrection, right? Practically speaking, it used to be because the priest preached, and so it was like a kerchief to make sure your throat stayed warm. That's important for me because, I talk a lot. So that's one of the reasons. Sometimes you'll see a priest wearing what's called a cassock. This was a garment that was created. It looks kind of like a dress. It is not. It is a liturgical garb, although the priest can wear it day to day. It was supposed to be, again, another symbol of simplicity. It covered over all the other clothes in a flowing way so you couldn't be flashy. And again, the color black for simplicity. So a priest, when he comes to Mass, doesn't just come in and start getting dressed. Like, we don't choose what we wear, right? It is established by God, right? So everything that a priest wears, every priest wears the same type of clothing, and every piece of clothing throughout the world and throughout time for the church has the same theological significance and meaning. Everything that we wear has meaning. So when we start Mass, and when we're here back in the sacristy getting vested for Mass, everything that we wear has a meaning, and as we actually get vested, there is a prayer that we say that reminds us of what we are doing and what we are putting on. So I'll both get vested so you can see what I'm doing, and briefly speak about what it is that I am wearing. Okay? So the very first thing that a priest would do when he comes in is he would wash his hands, not only for sanitation's sake, but as you enter into something sacred, it's a symbol of washing your hands of sin. And so the prayer that the priest would say is, "Give strength to my hands, O Lord, to wipe away every stain, so that I may be able to serve you in purity of mind and body." So that's the first thing we do. Then the priest would take this garment, which most people have never seen before. It's called an amice. And it was meant to be, from St. Paul's letter, the idea of putting on the helmet of faith. And so a priest, the function of it was supposed to be, it covers the collar, so that you don't see the outer garments of what the priest is wearing, right? Because when you enter into church, you're supposed to be leaving behind the world and entering into eternity. So you shouldn't see the day-to-day clothing of what the priest is wearing. So the amice is one of the functions of both reminding us of the helmet of faith, but also helping us remember that we are leaving behind the worries of this world and going into worship in the church, in the sanctuary, the new heaven. So the priest always kisses the vestments that he wears that have a cross on it. I don't know if you can see, but there's like a little tiny red cross. So we kiss that, we kiss the cross, and then we place the amice. I do this every day. You touch your head to remind of the helmet of faith, and then as you're putting the amice on, you say, "Lord, set the helmet of salvation on my head, to fend off all the assaults of the devil. So the amice covers the collar. The next vestment a priest would wear is called the alb, which comes from the Latin word for white. So this is the garment that we wear. You also notice our altar servers wear this same garment, white. So anytime you see white during the celebration of any of the sacraments, it's supposed to be a reminder of baptism. So this is supposed to be, all of us wore white at our baptisms, right, as children. So that when the priest is putting on the whiteness of the alb, it's a reminder of our baptismal garment. So as the alb is going on, the priest says, "Purify me, O Lord, and cleanse my heart, so that washed in the blood of the Lamb I may enjoy eternal joys." After the alb is put on, the priest then wears the cincture. The cincture also the altar servers wear. The cincture is meant to be a sign, one of the ancient, as a symbol of our promise of celibacy and purity. So it's supposed to be like the belt of chastity. And the prayer that we say as we put the cincture on is to remind us of the promise of celibacy that we made on the day of our ordination to become a deacon. So as the cincture is fashioned around, you say, "Lord, fasten the cincture of purity around me and extinguish my earthly desires, so that the virtue of continence and chastity may dwell within me." So, this garment that we wear, this is what both a priest and a deacon and a bishop would wear. Then the priest puts on the stole. And again, there's a cross, kisses the stole and puts it on. The stole is, a priest will wear a stole during the celebration of all the sacraments, because the stole is the vestment of the priest's authority. The stole was an ancient symbol of authority. The ancient high priests would wear them. The stole was a vestment of our authority from God to celebrate and to perform in His name. And so the priest wears the stole as a reminder that because of our ordination, we have been, not by our own power, given the authority by Christ. And so we put on the stole and we attach it, and the prayer that we say would be, "Lord, restore the stole of immortality which I lost through the action of our first parents, and although I am unworthy to approach your sacred mysteries, may I gain eternal joy." And then the final vestment that a priest would wear is called the chasuble. The chasuble and the stole, and sometimes the cincture, will all match in style and in color. I'll briefly speak about those. But the chasuble is meant to be, it's meant to be the reminder of charity and the fact that we have been called by Christ to be put on love over all things. So our office, our power, our authority is supposed to be cloaked in love, right? And you'll notice that the chasuble is more ornate than the stole, because we're supposed to be reminded, we as priests, that love is supposed to be governing all of the things that we do. And the chasuble is the final garment, and as you put it on, you say, "Lord, you have said, my yoke is sweet and my burden is light. Grant that I may carry your yoke well, so as to obtain your grace." And I'm just going to turn around very briefly. You see on the back, oftentimes there's decoration on the front and there's decoration on the back, right? So that no matter what way the priest is facing, towards the people, towards the back wall, towards this, towards the cross, when he's processing in or processing out, you'll notice that there's some form of religious symbolism that people can look at and say, this is a sacred vestment. This is something that's consecrated to God. The various colors are simply to be markers throughout the liturgical year of the different things that we celebrate. Green is just the color of life, so that's what we wear during ordinary time. Purple, a sign of penance and sadness, so during the penitential seasons. White is a color of joy. Gold is a color of joy, so we wear those during our celebratory seasons like Christmas and Easter, and on feast days of saints. Red is the color of blood, so for the blood of Christ and the blood of the martyrs, but also the color of fire, so for the Holy Spirit. And then sometimes there's a bluish tint on some of our vestments to remind us of the Blessed Mother, but always our vestments are not completely solid colors. So even on penitential vestments, there's a little bit of color like gold or silver or white to remind us that even in difficult times, the resurrection of Christ, the resurrected Christ, is with us in the celebration of this Mass, celebration of the sacraments, and through it we receive grace. So once the priest is ready, he would say a prayer, and then with the servers journey into the celebration of the Mass, vested, fortified by prayer, and ready to offer the sacrifice that Jesus gave us. So following up, my friends, on our video on the priest's vestments and how a priest prepares for Mass, a question was asked about, Father, just share a little bit about the vestments that you have, like your own personal sharing about them. So one of the questions was, where did the priests get their vestments? As a diocesan priest, the priest who serves for the Diocese of Arlington, while we don't make a vow of poverty, we do have a life of simplicity. So we don't have we shouldn't be going out and buy like Gucci, clothing or something. These are not my Prada clerics. But many of the vestments are given to us as ordination gifts from family members. And so the reason why the vestments, you'll notice first of all, we wear them a lot, so we use them often, but they are also ornate is because the vestments are meant for God's service. So they should be nice, right? They should call people's minds up to the glory of God. And because they are usually more expensive, they are gifts at our ordination because we're going to be using them during our priesthood. So oftentimes what is the case, so if any of you have friends that are getting ordained priests, oftentimes the case is a family member or friends would make a donation for you to be able to buy your set of vestments. So the set of vestments would be, over here it would be, you would be able to buy the chasuble, be able to buy the stole, and be able to buy the chalice veil, so the veil that goes over the chalice. And it could be, depending on the ornateness of the vestments, it can be quite expensive. And the way oftentimes a priest remembers the donation of the person that helped him purchase his vestments is oftentimes the names of the families are sewed into the vestment itself. So when the priest is wearing those vestments for Mass, he is remembering all the people that helped him to purchase that vestment that is now used for the glorification of God and the celebration of the sacrifice of the Mass. So I can just say from my own experience, I know that my white vestment, my green vestment, my red vestment, and my purple vestment were all purchased by my family members. This gold vestment was purchased by my older brother, who is a priest, and my priest friend, who vested me at my diaconate ordination. So this was a gift from a priest friend. My rose vestment, not pink. How do we know it's not pink? Because did Jesus pink from the dead? No, he rose. So my rose vestment was a gift from a priest who has since gone home to God. And my Marian vestment was a gift from another priest in the diocese who gave this to me. And then my this vestment was purchased by a friend of mine who is from, her parents are from Poland. So this is a vestment of John Paul II. On the back has his crest. So this vestment was purchased in Poland and blessed by a priest in Poland by a Polish family. Because they knew that I had a devotion to St. John Paul II. So this is a very, very precious vestment. So all of these. And the other thing is the cassock that I wear was purchased by some of the parishioners here at the parish. Some of the parishioners from the daily Mass community. So I wear that, and always for the priest. Of course, we're grateful for the help, but all of us, the vestments remind us of our service and the glory of God. And having people help us to purchase them and to use them and maintain them also reminds us that there are people that have helped us along our way in our vocation, and for us to remember and pray for constantly those that have helped us and taken care of us. That's at least the story of the vestments that I have. And I can tell you, Father Bob, Father Wilson, Father Hayes, any priest will have a story behind each of the vestments that he has that reminds him as a priest and a man, someone helped me get to where I am today, and for that I must be very grateful. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a background into where some of the vestments come from and how we get them, and God bless you. And the very last vestment, those are all of my personal vestments. But here in the Diocese of Arlington, because all of the priests were united in our priesthood, and there are several times during the year when all of the priests gather with Bishop Burbage, or the bishop of the diocese, and we con-celebrate large masses together in celebration. And so the bishop has given to each priest in the diocese a diocesan vestment, so that when all of us are together, we are wearing the same vestment. So it is this vestment. We often here at Nativity wear this for communal masses because we all have this vestment. Every priest has it in this diocese. The significance behind it is obviously white, because white is the festive color, and the blue for the Blessed Mother, but also you'll notice there's red along the side, there's blue in the middle, and then it's kind of gold, silvery. It's supposed to be like the American flag, red, white, and blue, because we're so close to the nation's capital, and so many of our parishioners serve the government of our nation. So our diocesan colors are reminders of the fact that we're so close to our nation's capital, and so our vestment kind of reflects that color scheme and that symbolism. So this is our diocesan vestment that we wear for large diocesan gatherings when all of the priests gather to celebrate with the bishop. So now you know the story of at least all of my vestments, or the vestments that I have, and I hope this helps you see a little bit into the background of the Mass. God bless you.